All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Tommy Valentine. I am the Executive Director of Historic Athens. We want to thank you so much for joining us today. This is episode 10 of our 55 episode series, This Moment in History, COVID-19 in Athens, Georgia. Today, we're going to be joined by Shane Blackwell. Shane serves this community in multiple ways, and we'll talk about why. Many of you may know him as the owner of Mac and Payne Funeral Home. We're also going to talk about his nonprofit responsibilities. But before we begin, just a quick intro for those of you that are joining us for the first time. Uh, if you comment below this video, we can actually bring that comment up on screen. And so, for example, Brenda Poss said, looking forward to this one, Tommy. And I can go ahead and bring that up. And so there's Brenda. And so if you have any questions or comments that you want to share as the broadcast is taking place, just do what Brenda just did. Just make a comment. We can share it, and you can be part of this discussion. And Brenda, we're glad you're here. One other thing I just want to note is that for those of you that haven't interacted with Historic Athens before, we are a 52-year-old nonprofit 501c3 here in Athens, Georgia. Our mission is to celebrate and conserve community heritage in Athens. Sometimes that heritage that we're preserving is a building or a site, a cemetery, or an important historic place, but sometimes it's stories, and that's what we're going to be doing today. At the conclusion of this 55 episode series, which is taking place each weekday at 1 o'clock until June 26th, we will archive all of these interviews, and we will be sending them over to our local libraries and research institutions as a way to document this strange, unique, and often difficult moment in Athens history, and talk about the resiliency and strategies that have defined our community throughout this period of time. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and bring Shane on. So let me go ahead and bring him into the stream, and then we can get started here. All right, great. And Shane, hello.
Hey, Tommy, how you doing?
Good. For the audience, I feel like just so that they don't have to point it out, we were joking before we went on air that you and I decided to go with the same exact look today. Same haircut, same beard, plaid shirt. So I'll expect all guests from this point on
Hey,
to do the same. So,
my
Shane,
brother from another mother.
that's right. That's right. You can split the screen and just yeah. Either way you go with it. Yeah. So so Shane, several of the people that are going to be tuning in are already familiar with you, but some won't be. So can you take a moment to introduce yourself and talk about your work in this community?
Sure. My name is Shane Blackwell, born and raised here in Athens, Georgia. Graduate of Clark Central. Went to mortuary school in 91, 92. Graduate of Gupton Jones Mortuary College of Funeral Service. Um, been licensed for embalming and directing. In the process, trying to get my license back since I retired from the military. Left here in 97, joined the military and spent 20 years active duty on U.S. Army, whereas I was a senior supply sergeant in logistics, and I had the opportunity to travel around the world. Been deployed to Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan. Been married for 26 years to Dr. Ophelia Blackwell. She's a mental health professional here in Athens. She just recently moved from Kansas, where she closed her private practice, to come back home. We have two grown kids, Brittany and Charity. Brittany has a 9-year-old, so I have a grandson. And I've been at the helm of running Mac and Payne Funeral Home since December 2014, shortly before my grandfather passed away in January of 2015. So I've had that opportunity to come back, resurrect the business, rebrand it, doing it a different way and so forth like that. So I'm proud of our accomplishments. And also, we're Athens' oldest African American funeral home here in Athens. We just recently celebrated 108 years uh, being here in Athens last month. Um, that's pretty much it. That's a little, brief history of me, so forth. I like to exercise. Haven't been able to do it a lot lately. Been sick and under the weather. but nothing
Mhm.
related with COVID, but just been, sick. But I love to run. I love fishing. Love spending time outdoors. I love meeting people. I'm just very transparent. I never really met a stranger, and I'm just happy to be back home. Once you deploy and you go without a hot shower, go without a hot meal. It makes you appreciate the things that's near and dear back home, which is to me was family, and just the small things of having running water and so forth like that. So I'm truly blessed to be here, and also started help one of the co-founders and founding members of the Northeast Georgia Business Alliance here in Athens as well, which is a nonprofit organization here to gear towards Black businesses here in Athens.
Mhm. It's great. I like
Thank
when
you.
our guests describe well, thank you. I like when our guests describe their work and it comes off like a compelling biography that I'd be willing to read, and then they go, "Well, that's all. I guess that's it," you know. But yeah, Shane,
Uh,
and in addition to our similarities in appearance, we also I could probably right now step outside and throw a rock, and if I could throw it hard enough, I could hit your front door.
right.
Because we're both based out of Newtown. Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
But so so we just need to go door to door and make sure that folks know that this is the Newtown look. That's what we're gonna have to do.
That's
This
it.
is the
That's what we
Newtown
need
look
to do.
now.
Yeah, definitely.
So I do want to say I did see a funny comment that I want to make sure we share. It sounds like one of your number neighbors is here. Laura Taylor jumped on to say her phone number is close to the Mac and Payne number, so she gives out their number a lot.
Oh,
And
okay.
so so
Sorry.
yeah, I'm sure Shane appreciates the business. Laura, keep
Yeah,
sending
thank
them
you,
on.
Laura. Appreciate that.
So so all right, so Shane, getting back to it, so. I want to delve just a little bit further into your relationship with Athens here. So, uh, first of all, as someone who recently retired from the military, who's back home, whose spouse, uh, left their private practice to come back home, you're trying to rebrand and reestablish Athens' oldest African American funeral home. What possessed you in the middle of that to co-found a nonprofit and run a nonprofit too? Do you just hate having free time? What what led to that?
It's just the fact that when I came home, when you have your own career and you move away and then you come back, you see things different. And one thing that I saw different was the neighborhoods that I grew up in or visit was not the same. And one thing I noticed is that a lot of black businesses that I once visited no longer existed. So I've just figured that if I get with the right people, we can start an organization to help black businesses. So it's like a black chamber of commerce for black
Mhm.
businesses, and that's what we're about. Just trying to help black the black businesses here in Athens and surrounding counties, and do what we can to provide insight on what's available, what we can do to assist them in their everyday business, or even trying to establish a business and give them pointers or point them in the right direction. One thing that I learned in the military is that you don't have to be the smartest in the room. You just need to surround yourself around smart people. And that's one thing that I've learned is not to, you don't necessarily have to work super hard, but work smart. And that's what I try to
Mhm.
do. And I apply my time wisely because time to me, I gave it a lot in the military, working 12, 14, 16 sometimes 18-hour days. So, my family got put on the back burner a lot. And what I do now is I just prioritize. So I just try to prioritize and do what I need to do to take care of my family as well as try to take care of my community in different aspects of what I'm doing.
Considering how important the relationship is between a funeral home and any community, but also historically how important the relationship is between African American owned funeral homes to their own community as well. To be the oldest run funeral home in Athens really is something. Can you tell us a little bit about that history and that community relationship between Mac and Payne and Athens, Georgia?
I try to do my best. I'm the fifth owner out of Rich History. The owners originally were, I think, Andrew McCluskey and uh, Mr. Payne. And they had the business originally. Then they turned it over to Houston Lumpkin and the Lumpkins family, and then Miss Minnie Lumpkin, and then my grandfather, Mr. Alfonso Willis, and then after he passed, I took over. So from 1912, from the original two founding members of Mac and Payne to the Lumpkins to the Willis, now over to the Blackwells.
Absolutely. And does that feel like a real responsibility to be the steward of a 100-plus-year-old business like that?
It comes with the territory. You have to do what you got to do when you are appeal in the community. You have an upright to hold. You have a responsibility, and I think that as all funeral directors, owners, you got to lead from the front, and you have to show leadership. You have to show courage. You have to be able to show sympathy. I think being an owner, director, and bomber, it takes a special person. We talk about the healthcare industry. Well, I'm in the death care industry. So, I
Mhm.
mean, at the same time, with COVID-19 and so forth, my industry is also on the front line, but is in a different light. So we have to do the same measures as healthcare workers as well. And, you got to be smart at what you do, and you got to be very knowledgeable. And I had the privilege of learning under my grandfather and other older people that was on our team when I was here back in the 90s and so forth. So I had a lot of valuable lessons that I learned that I've applied along with learning from younger embalmers and directors as of today. So I'm able to mix both of them together and bring up my own brand.
Shane, you mentioned something earlier about how, there's the healthcare industry and there's the death care industry. And just speaking as a layperson, I think about, I would imagine most folks that aren't in your industry don't like talking about the death care industry very much. Maybe it spooks them. Maybe it's just something they're trying not to think about.
Right.
Um, and so I imagine that the average person here, even though we're all going to need to talk to a funeral home at some point, right?
True.
Or be on the receiving end of one. Uh, what are some common misconceptions about your industry? What are some things you think people should know? What should the average person walk around knowing about what makes a good funeral home? Things like that.
I think you just need to be able to find one that's going to be able to listen to you, get the needs that you need as a family that's grieving. Know that at least I can only speak from my firm that we're here to sympathize for you. You know what I'm saying? I understand that you're grieving, so while you're low, I got to be able to understand your emotions and be able to process that and be that person to guide you through the process. And that's one thing that we do. We do it one family at a time. And I tell each and every family, it's going to be different. It's a process, and it's a process that we'll get through together. So we just make sure that we're doing everything that we can, listening, being there for the family, being compassionate, being able to comfort them in their time of needs and so forth like that.
Right. I'm sure that it comes in handy that your spouse is in mental health care, a mental health care professional, because it seems to me that, you could be trained to be a director, you could be trained to be an embalmer, but when you just talked about having to sit down with folks and say, I'm going to get through this with you, we're going to get through this together. It seems like I would imagine there's a component of your job that's almost like counseling. Is that something that you find yourself often having to do?
Yes. Luckily, my wife is a mental health professional. She's, licensed and everything, even here in the state of Georgia. I can lean on her for advice, but I think I can't say it's a natural gift that I have to just listen to people, but I do listen, and I'm concerned, and I take it personal. So when people come in our doors and they entrust in us with their loved ones, they got my undivided attention. So I'm definitely in a counselor mode. I'm also in a director mode. I'm in every mode that it needs to be. You got multiple shoes to wear here in the funeral service business. And I got nearly 30 years of experience, and I'm glad to say that I can fit those shoes very well and please every family that has come through our doors.
Yeah. You know, you're taking over a business that's been owned by numerous families, but that came to you as a family business. You left home for a while to do the military. What did you bring back from that military experience that's now helping you run your
Leadership.
business?
I think that once I was here back in the 90s when I was very, very young, and things that probably upsetted me then, now I just flip it off my shoulder like it doesn't bother me. So I'm able
Mm,
to, the leadership that I learned in the Army, I applied to my everyday workplace here in the civilian world here in Athens at Mac and Payne. So I'm very grateful for the leadership that I learned under different leaders, a variety of leaders in the military, and I was able to, go to schools and so forth like that, military school, and it helped develop you. It really helps develop you as a person, not only as a person but as a father, a teacher, a leader. It it gives you a lot of great values, and I'm glad that I'm able to bring those qualities back home and apply them here in my civilian world now, being a retired vet.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so I guess my last question before we kind of transition to this particular moment in time, you mentioned that your inspiration of starting your nonprofit, it was the Northeast Georgia Business Alliance. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Uh, okay. So, you mentioned that part of the inspiration was coming back and seeing that some of the businesses you grew up, some of the minority owned businesses, black owned businesses that you were used to were gone. Part of what we do in our organization is historic preservation. And sometimes when I'm talking to folks and they think that that sounds a little stuffy, I try to ask them, all right, well, if you were to leave Athens for 50 years and come back, what are some businesses or some places that if they were gone, that it wouldn't feel like Athens anymore to you? And even folks that aren't sure they're sold on historic preservation, they get that part. They get that there's certain things that if they were gone, it wouldn't feel like the same community. Um, when you look back at those businesses that weren't here when you came back, was it just a general sense that there were fewer, or were there ones that you miss, or ones that you grew up around?
It was just the fact that ones that I grew up around, and I remember going out on Prince. There was a gas station there that was owned by blacks. There was others, fast food restaurant, not fast food, but you know, soul food restaurants. There was also a
Right.
place out on Broad Street that I remember as well that was ran by an African American person. So it's just the fact that you see different things, different times. So you can't, you really can't, let's, how can I put it? You miss those things. You wish they were still here, but at the same time, you got to move on. And if
Right.
things then pan out right, it is what it is. And I'm just trying to help the next generation and
Got
whatever
it.
I can do to, for fulfill their desire to have a business here in Athens.
Absolutely. Yeah. And obviously, that way, hopefully, someone using whatever technology is available 100 years from now, holograms or whatever, hopefully better than sticks and stones or something. But, hopefully, someone like me is interviewing someone that you've helped that's their business is celebrating 100 years of business, or something
Yes,
like
sir.
that. All right. I'm seeing some great user questions in here, including ones that I think are going to help us transition to this moment in time. And so I'm going to bring up Jeremy Field's question here. I do want to say we have a certain group of viewers that are tuning in pretty much every day, submitting questions. We really appreciate it. If this is your first time tuning in, we're going to be back every 1 o'clock every weekday until June 26th. So feel free to jump in. But Jeremy Field just threw out this question, and I feel like there's two ways you could probably answer this, Shane. The question here being, can you describe how your funeral home business has changed and when you knew it was going to change? And, it's interesting because you mentioned rebranding. You mentioned, you know, making your own mark on this funeral home. So you could probably answer that question even if coronavirus hadn't happened. But then also it's timely for now. So either way you want to go with it, how's business changed for you?
Well, can you describe this change the way you do? Well, as far as the business has changed for me, describe how your business has changed. Um, I don't know. It's just like I don't know. It's kind of trickery. It's just that how can you describe how your funeral home business has changed? It has changed in a way that my grandfather had it for so many years, and I feel that he didn't plan for the future. So one thing that I'm doing is planning for the future, and you have to be able to change with time. And one thing that you have to do is you can't be stubborn, you can't be set in your ways. And what I've done as an owner is put a staff together that I feel that is compassionate, but yet everyone has different levels of experience. I have old, middle age, young. So everyone puts their spin in it, and we go from there. We have meetings. We have a lot that are training that go on here at the funeral home, and this is stuff that I feel that maybe my grandfather could have done better when I was here. But since he's not here and he's in heaven, and I'm at the helm now, so I'm applying the things that I know that's going to make it better. Which again, my leadership in the military. So I can't do it by myself. I'm on a piece of the pie. So therefore, I'm always asking, how can we get better as a team? How can we better, provide for our community? What can we do other than outside of the funeral home business? So we do a lot outside the funeral home business as well. So, I mean, we just recently donated or fed the homeless here in Athens, but you probably wouldn't know it. But that's just things that I do to help our community, and we do so much. And in 2019, we do a lot of sponsorship and give out monetary gifts as well. So you just have to know when the right time to change, and that's why you have meetings. That's why you have conferences and so forth like that. So you have to stay relevant, and you got to stay up to date, and you have to know when to make that necessary change. But first and foremost, I'm led by God. So when God tell me to move, that's when I move. Right now, I'm in my 5 phase planning, and I'm in phase two. So when God tell me it's time for me to close phase two, then I go into phase three.
Phase three. All right.
Yeah.
So let's look at Jeremy's question from another angle here too. Let's look at it from, you know, as a business owner, like a lot of the business owners we've talked to, at some point this COVID thing probably crept into your periphery. I mean, at first it was this story that it was you might have been hearing about a little bit on TV or radio, maybe a
Hmm.
little bit on your Facebook feed, and then gradually that static turned up louder and louder until it was undeniably something that was coming. How did that kind of come on the scene for you? How has your business had to change since it has arrived? And just kind of how did you know what to do?
Well, one of our all the funeral directors, owners here in Athens, under the 7th District Funeral Service Practitioner Association, we all got together, did a teleconference, and decided what was best. Got with the mayor and commission and city manager, and submitted what they would like for us to do, and be in compliance with the rules and regulations that was before us with the CDC and Governor Kemp and President Trump. So we applied those, and then we set out what is the best way to protect the public, our clients, our staff, and lastly us. So that's what we've done. COVID-19 doesn't give a crap about your color,
Mm,
your party affiliation, or
mm,
anything. So you treat every case as if it's an infectious case anyway.
mm.
But now that this COVID-19 is relevant and is right here and is here, so you have to know what you're doing, and that's one thing that we've done as a group of funeral home owners. Got together, and collectively we are all on one page, and decided on what we was going to do as owners to protect and help our community.
You know, this is just so interesting because I think for a lot of the public, myself included, we think of, let's say that someone we knew or loved was to be infected with COVID-19. Let's say that unfortunately they passed away. We had a guest last Tuesday who recently lost a family member only the night before to COVID-19. Uh, you kind of think of the tragedy of them passing away as if that's the end of the story. But clearly, for your business, that's not the end of the story. When that person comes to you, uh, there's additional it sounds like there's additional hygiene steps. There's additional care that you have to do to make sure you're protecting your staff. Can you
Correct.
tell us a little bit about what those steps look like?
Pretty much, just like I said, we treat every case as if it's an infectious case. So one
Mm,
thing that I told my staff, my ones that does all my pickups, had them training on how to put on their like hazmat suits, and without completely putting on a hazmat suit, but making sure that they put, proper way of putting on the suit, taking it off, and so forth like that, and making sure that they know how to dispose of it correctly, putting it in the proper bags, and doing the correct things. Also, we have to make sure that we sanitize someone's loved one as they come in. So we have
mm,
to. I'm not going to go in depth with it, but we have to make sure that they're
right,
completely sanitized from head to feet, and ensure that everything is correct and done. And that's one thing that I think my experience as an owner come in play at. And my leadership is that I make sure that I'm hands on when I need to be. And
right,
I have experience in bombers and directors, so I don't really necessarily have to watch over them because I don't, and they know what to do. But I also put my force on what I want done, and
right.
they said they got it, Shane. We know what to do. I'm like, good. So we make sure that everyone with COVID-19 is very sanitized, so it doesn't interfere with the public. So we're good.
Yeah. It's a strange time for so many reasons, but one that I know it's especially strange for are for, how do I say this? Family get-togethers. I've seen folks that have had to postpone their wedding or just go do a courthouse session for now, and
Hmm.
I've also talked to more than one person who has had to do some kind of online service or vigil because people aren't getting together or just have not been getting together in the same way. Has that affected your responsibilities at all? Have you noticed those kind of changes in how people are marking the passing of a loved one right now?
Absolutely, it definitely affected our industry. When you think of a funeral home, you automatically think of people automatically think of burial and having a funeral, a full-fledged funeral. But one thing that we done again as owners here with the seventh district, got together and all of us are on one accord that there will be no funerals. Unfortunately,
Mm,
we have to explain to our families as they video chat or Zoom or how we make arrangements that we're unable to have an actual service, but we can have a graveside service. And
mm,
even then, when people, you normally open to the public, but unfortunately, visitation for the public has been suspended here in Athens, Clarke County. Um, so only the immediate family are able to view their loved ones, which would be son, daughter, uh, mother, father, grandchild, or that's it. Yeah, son, daughter, sibling, and the grandchildren.
and it sounds to me, I mean, since it's your job to be the one who passes that news on, has that been an additional, emotional duty for you? I mean, if I were in your shoes, that would be a very difficult thing to explain to someone who's struggling to understand why they can't, celebrate the life of a loved one the way that they were expecting.
I think sometimes, like I said from the beginning, you had to be compassionate
Yeah.
and you had to be understanding. and you had to take yourself out of your shoes and put yourself into your loved one's shoes, and understand where they're coming from. So yeah, you definitely have to. You can't be super hard or anything like that. You got to be compassionate and just talk to them in a way, in a manner that they understand. And a lot of
Yeah,
times they know what's going on. I don't think there's one person here in Athens that's not aware of what's happening with the COVID. I know I also posted on our company Facebook page, what was happening with COVID-19 and the measures that all the funeral home owners had gotten together, and we put that out on our Facebook page. So definitely, we
mhm,
everyone grieves different. So some people they hey, I got it, I understand you, ain't got to tell me. Some people they want to hear it, be reassured, and that's good. So you just have to be ready at all times.
absolutely. Um, Shane, bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to come back here in a moment with a question from Deborah Gonzalez. We do like to pause just as we're about halfway through the program, just to recognize our annual sponsors. So I'm just going to do that very briefly. So first of all, we want to make sure that we recognize today's sponsor. So this week was brought to you by Dan and Corey Delamater. Without their support, we couldn't have brought to you the 5 programs that took place this week. So we very much appreciate Dan and Corey and the Delamater family for making that possible. Each of the 11 weeks is sponsored by a different local sponsor. And so we look forward to recognizing next week's sponsor when we begin on Monday at 1. The folks you see on the screen right here, these are our annual sponsors. These are the people who help keep our organization going. You heard Shane mention earlier that he is a private business, supports local nonprofits. Well, that's how nonprofits survive, is the support of business owners or individuals that believe in their mission. So we definitely want to urge you to support all these businesses you see on screen. One last note I'll make is that in addition to these folks that are sponsors, we also have hundreds of people here in Athens, Georgia, that support us as donor members. So you can just donate one time. Certainly, every dollar counts, but you can also become a member for as little as $5 a month. And that membership supports us throughout the year, no matter what's coming. I know that the folks that gave to us in August and September, they didn't know what this was going to be like, but we're sure glad that they gave their support to us this year, because it's keeping us afloat. So if you'd like to become a member, if you'd like to become a sponsor, you can visit historicathens.com. If that feels too cold to you and you have some questions for me before you take that step, you can contact me directly via Facebook. Just look up Tommy Valentine. You can DM us through our Facebook page, or you can email me, tommy@historicathens.com. But one way or another, we want to thank everyone that makes our mission possible and has made it possible for 52 years. So I'm going to go ahead and get back to our guest. While I'm bringing Shane back on screen, I also want to mention to those of you that are watching, we are still accepting nominations for the 51st Annual Preservation Awards. We've had to make a change. We were expecting to do them at the Morton Theater as normal. We're now expecting early June for that not to be a possibility. If it is, then we'll definitely be there. But one way or another, we're accepting the nominations now. If you know of an important local historic project, or you know of a place that's in danger and want to nominate it for our Athens Place in Peril list, you can submit both at historicathens.com. So, Shane, thanks for letting me just share some organizationally related things. Let me go ahead and bring up Deborah's question for you
Absolutely.
here. So, Deborah says, "Hi, Shane. Nice to hear you today. Is there something that you remember when things get challenging, especially during these difficult times? Is there any words of wisdom? I know you mentioned, maybe a piece of scripture or something that one of your past leaders or mentors taught you. What do you hold close when things get tough?"
Um, this too shall pass, and
Mm,
I believe it's a scripture. And my mom always tell me, Shane, this too shall pass. Regardless of what storm I'm in, regardless of what may come against me, no matter what may happen, this too shall pass. And I've learned to use that as a motto, that this too shall pass. COVID-19 is not going to last forever. It has affected us in a way that has made us, I think, come closer as a community, as a family. And I'm grateful for you giving me this opportunity to speak, and this too shall pass. COVID-19 is not going to be here forever. It's just a time in our history that we will be able to look back on and say, yes, I remember that. I was there during that time. It was chaotic, but guess what? We got through it, and we're going to get through it
There we
again.
go. Well, it's interesting you say that because Deborah just shared that her mom tells her that too. So, uh, so very good.
uh,
Well, so so Shane, we've got about a third of the program left, and I want to make sure we use your time well. So, you know, when this does pass, and let's say 10 years from now, you're looking back. Recently, like a lot of people, I've been thinking back on other tough moments that our communities and our nation and our world has gone through together. And one of those is 9/11. And, you can think back on 9/11, and you think of there's certain imagery that comes to mind, the towers, flags, there's certain things that the I Love New York shirts everywhere, things like that, that those symbols just remind you of that time. Are there moments or images that you've seen either in person or in the news that you think we're still going to be thinking about 10 years from now?
I think the fact that we're coming together as a community, as a nation. Every day I look at the news, there's somebody that's a different story. With the healthcare field, truly they are the ones that's on the front line, battling this virus. And I just look at how around the world I've seen how people have come together, whether it's playing music or waving to a loved one from a window or holding up a sign, encouraging someone who's going through. Even if they have COVID or if they don't have COVID, they're in a position that they're not able to be with their loved ones. So I think this opportunity of us being able to figure out this COVID, it also has made us come together. We've, as a nation, have been through so much, and we're going to get through this together as a nation. So I think 10 years from now, we may look back and remember all of those ones that put their lives on the line to save those that were sick. And I truly believe that in the bottom of my heart is that that's what's going to happen. That we won't forget the true people that was on the front line. I think that I salute all the healthcare workers from not only them, but the people that cook meals. And it's so many people from a logistic standpoint that is doing so much that help support the healthcare field. You know,
Mhm.
so it's many different avenues that I've seen on TV. I've seen in the community. I think we had something for the Athens Piedmont Hospital for the healthcare workers with a parade. So support. So I mean I think we I don't think that'll diminish. I think that'll be right up there at the top with 9/11.
So, a lot of these interviews, when we're talking to small business owners like yourself, you know, usually someone pops into the comment section to ask, how can we support your business right now? And if you were a bookstore, or we talked to Janet who owns Avid Bookshop last week, or there's certain businesses where it's obvious what we can do. Um, I if there's anything that in general the public can do to support your business, please let us know. But it leads to a question for me, which is, so let's say that someone has recently moved to Athens, Georgia, or let's say let's say there's just a family in Athens, Georgia that doesn't have a relationship with a funeral home. How, you know, how do folks go about finding businesses like yours to support? How should people know how to choose?
They could Google funeral
Mhm.
home. They'll pop up. I'm sure they could ask someone if they moved into a neighborhood. Athens is not a real large metropolitan city, but there's ways that a lot of times people word of mouth is still strong and positive in the
Yeah.
community. It's not social media, and that's one thing that
Yeah.
I felt that I needed to do is as far as branding. is get up on my social media game. So definitely, Mac and Payne is headed in the right direction with our web page and with our social media and so forth like that. Also, Mac and Payne is a funeral home that is open to the community. And what I want to be able to do is serve the community regardless of your color, your party affiliation. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be just known as that African American funeral home.
Mhm.
I'm like I said, I'm also doing a lot of renovation as well. So when
Right.
you come in the future, you'll see veteran owned funeral home. And one thing I want to do is be that community funeral home for Athens and surrounding counties. And I have a diverse staff, white, Spanish, of course, blacks. I mean, I feel that it's needed. And to reach a multitude of people in our community, you have to be able to change. And that's one thing Mac and Payne has done since I've taken the helm is I've changed how we do business day to day. And I'm proud to say that I have a diverse staff, and I look forward to serving the community.
Great. So Shane, as we bear down here in these last 15 minutes or so, there's three questions that I've been asking each of our guests to answer. Uh, and so the first of those is the lightest one. Which is that, right now with shelter in place, all of us are there's places we can't go, or there's businesses that we love that aren't open. And so one of the questions I've been asking folks are, if shelter in place were lifted today and you were comfortable that tomorrow you could go anywhere you want, you could eat wherever you want, you could do whatever you want. What would be some of the first places you go? What would be some of the first things you'd do?
Oh my God, man. I would,
Yeah.
one thing that I forgot to mention is when I was growing up here in Athens, I worked at the Dairy Queen that was on Broad Street, and I worked
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Lou Finello, and I love the Dairy Queen, so I probably would just be at the Dairy Queen, sitting
yeah.
down, eat me a extra large Blizzard. I don't need it. Trust me, I don't need it. But probably be a
Yeah.
Blizzard, retail stores, just being out in the public. Whatever I can do to support small businesses. Um, I just go out in the public. I just go out because I've seen this before on a different front when I was in theater or back, deployed or whatnot. So, you
Yeah.
kind of see things from a different light when you're in the military. So when this is all lifted, I'm definitely going to go to the Dairy Queen. I'm definitely going to go to different retail stores and shop around here in Athens and, you know, around here in Athens and go to different small businesses.
Any Dairy Queen hacks for us? Or you mentioned the Blizzard, but you didn't say what your flavor was. Like what?
It's Oreo or Reese's cup.
You're a Dairy Queen pro. What? What'd you say?
It's either Oreo or Reese's cup.
Okay, Uh, I think that's the correct answer. I think that most people would agree that's the correct answer. Yeah, that Dairy Queen. It's that's that the Dairy Queen on Broad, which is now no longer there.
Right.
Uh, uh, I found out something interesting recently about that Dairy Queen, which is this is just since you're a Dairy Queen person and since our
Right.
audience is historic, they may appreciate this. So in Athens, Athens used to make a soda. Long time ago, there used to be a soda, and at first it was called Blood Wine, BLUD wine, and I think its logo was like a bat or something, and
Hmm.
not the best logo to have right now during COVID.
Right.
But eventually they changed their name to Bud Wine. And then if the articles I've read, I do want to say we got a shout out here for Oreo from Jeremy Field. Very good, Jeremy. Oreos. I'm more of a Reese's cup,
Uh,
but I would not say no to an Oreo one right now. I anyway, blood wine became Bud wine, and it no longer exists because if my research is correct, eventually Anheuser Busch, whoever owns Budweiser, I guess, I guess, bought it out, not with any intention to make it, but because they didn't want another product on the marketplace that featured the name Bud.
hmm.
But what was interesting is in the article that I found about this, they said for a while, the last place on earth you could still get it was as a special menu item at that Dairy Queen that you used to work at. It used to there apparently that was like the last place they phased it out was you could go in and ask for ice cream with a Bud wine and they like would keep a few in the cooler or something like that.
Yeah,
So
we get a
um,
Bud wine float.
there we go, Bud wine float. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I made plenty of
So
them.
oh, did you really? Oh wait, so
Yeah,
this is no longer myth. This is real.
it's real. It's
So
real, man.
people would come in and order it.
Yeah, yeah, we had it. I can't remember we had it. I don't know if it was made. I don't know how we had it, but I know remember we did have Bud wine, and it was tasty. And if people wanted a Bud wine float, we make them a Bud wine float. If they wanted Bud wine soda, we would put it on the machine and
Wow.
push it out.
Well, so this is just you've verified history for us here. Do you have any memory of what it tasted like? I've heard different things. Some people say cheer wine's the closest thing they can think of it tasting like. Is that about
Yeah,
right for
that's
you?
about
Or
right. Yeah. hmm It had kind of
okay.
like a little sweet
Wow.
taste to it, but a
Mhm.
little tart just also. But it was good. It was nice. I didn't drink it too much, but it had a nice taste, nice flavor.
How about that? All right. So, wow, that's fascinating. All right. So, uh, this is the fun part of it being live, right? So, all
Right.
right. So, well, Shane, so two final questions here. So, you know, our organization, Historic Athens, we do a lot of things. We run an initiative called Hands on Athens, which does direct home repairs for low to moderate income homeowners in historic houses or neighborhoods. We operate the Athens Welcome Center. We do a lot of public uh, programming, but also part of what we do is also historic preservation.
hmm
And uh, in the historic preservation community right now, one of the concerns coming out of COVID is that usually when you get out of a recession or you get out of a big event like that, people are really eager to just knock things down and build new things. Just in the name of progress. And so we're there are a lot of folks in the historic preservation world that are kind of gritting our teeth a bit, trying to stay on the balls of our feet in case really important historic sites become endangered overnight. One of the ways we've been sharing that concern during this broadcast is by asking a question, which is, Shane, there's a very good chance that this interview is going to be viewed 50, 60 years from now by some researcher at the Athens Library or at UGA. What are some of the historic places, maybe even including your business? What are some of the historic places in Athens that you care about that you hope that same researcher that's watching this interview, if they wanted to walk out the door and go to, would still be there? Are there any places like that that you really think are important?
Um, Getting back in Athens, still trying to, put my feet around a lot of places and so forth. I don't really necessarily know a lot of places
Yeah.
that's historic. I know they had spoken something about the Payne House or something like that. I'm not sure where that stand. That's something I would
Okay.
like to see still here. Weaver D spot over on the river.
Yeah.
That's something definitely I would love to see here. Hot Corner with Brown Barbershop and Wilson Barbershop, and right across the corner, Doggone Barbecue. Those are places that
That's
I
right.
definitely would like to see here another 50, 60, 100 years. Pass the business on down to the next generations. So,
That's right.
I know Mac and Payne used to be on Hull Street back on Hot Corner before we moved to where we're at right now. So, I definitely would like to see um, anything that's can be preserved now after COVID, that the
Hmm.
mayor commission put a task force together along with partnering with you and what is it, your company that you're working for.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Historic
Yeah, Historic Athens. We need to preserve part of Athens that to me has left. When I
Yeah.
grew up and I came back, a lot of things was gone. A lot of things have changed. So I hope once this COVID is done and we come out of the recession or whatnot, that we can still look around town and say, hey, we need to keep that. That needs to stay. This needs to stay.
That's right.
And I'm happy for it.
Yeah. Well, I hope. Thank you for sharing that perspective. I agree, and I hope that those researchers are that your business is still standing. I hope whoever they are that they can go down to Doggone Barbecue and get a big bite or pulled pork or whatever they want to get. Uh, if they've got a little bit more up top than me and you, I hope they can go to whoever's running Homer's spot and get their hair cut.
Right.
But I also just want to say before we turn to this last question here, Alex Sams, who's watching, just jumped in to say Bud wine floats were great, and he actually used to deliver Bud wine while working on the Coke delivery trucks.
There you
So
go.
Alex,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yep.
All right, so Shane, here's the last question. It's really open ended. You can answer it however you want.
Okay.
So let's flash back to this idea of that imaginary researcher that maybe is not so imaginary. 60, 70 years from now, they're scrolling through these 55 interviews and they get to this one. What is something that you want them to know about Athens in this moment? Athens in 2020, Athens during coronavirus. What would you like to share with that person?
That Athens is a fun place to be at, and that we have a lot of work that still needs to be done. We still have a high poverty rate, and that I think as a community, I think we had a right mayor and commission that can make a dent in that. And I think that if we continue to put our feet forward and work together and come across party lines and don't worry about what skin color you are or what part of the railroad tracks that you stay on, if we just come together as a team, and we can make it happen. And if we truly care about Athens and everybody, and we want everyone to be inclusive, then we can do it. We can definitely make Athens a happy place for everybody. And that's what this is my
Mm,
home. This is why I came back to make an impact. Now, it's not about talk, it's all about action. So I definitely want to have someone 50, 60 years from now to be able to say, you know what, y'all laid the foundation, we've taken the mantle, and we're going to continue to do what we do, make Athens a better place.
absolutely. Absolutely. Shane, for viewers, if they want to find you online or find Mac and Payne, what's the web address? Where should they go?
Mac and Payne, that's MACK, the AND, Payne, PAYNE.com, macandpayne.com, or you can reach me by email, MACK dot Payne, FH at gmail.com.
Okay, very good. We want to thank Shane so much for being here with us. We'll be back on Monday at 1 o'clock with Chief Spruill of Athens Clarke County Police Department. We really appreciate Dan and Corey Delamater again for making this week possible. We want to thank everyone who tuned in and asked questions. Shane, we hope you're staying safe. Thanks for being here with us. Please take care, okay?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and take care.
Okay, and everyone out there, please stay safe. We'll see you on Monday at 1 o'clock. Thanks so much.